Here in the Hyundai Texans radio studio with us now is General Manager Nick Caserio. Nick, great to see you. And another frustrating game right there in the fourth quarter. Johnny was talking about it. 8.5 to go in all these games. You're either in the lead or within 3. That's encouraging, but I know you want to see yourself get over the hump.
Yeah, we've had our opportunities really in all these games, but in the end, we just haven't done enough to win the football game. So until we figure out a way to do that, we're going to come up on the short end of the stick. But, certainly encouraged by some things that happened, making some progress in some areas. Some other areas we still need to get cleaned up. So, the opportunity here this week in the division against a good team that's definitely improved. So we certainly have a challenge in front of us.
Nick, second half, because you were behind, I don't think you abandoned the playbook, but Davis had to unleash a little bit more. He goes deep to Nico. He hits the ball to Brandon for the touchdown. Do you see more in Davis this week than you've been seeing? What do you think about his performance?
Yeah, offensively, I think there are some bright spots from individually some different folks. Just collectively as a unit, certainly can do better. I think one thing that we're able to do is create some explosive plays. So I had the play to Nico. DP's run, certainly explosive play. So anytime you have an explosive play, it just shortens a drive and it just, less field you have to cover. So continue to find ways to create maybe some explosive plays, just shorten drives. I think on the other side of the ball, the Chargers had a certain number of explosive plays on their end. So explosive plays are a big part of the game, offensively and defensively, regardless of the side of the ball that you're on. So continue to find ways to do that, certainly help us, just from an offensive perspective.
Pierce with the explosive run, and an underlying story there is the block by Hairston, and we wanted to go all Madden on that block. Hairston, converted defensive player, but it speaks to the adaptability that he played defense. He's a fullback now. He makes a block like that in an NFL game for a 75-yard run. That's nice.
Yeah, overall it was a well-executed play from the point of attack with Nico in the down block to get the kind of play started. OJ pulling around, got a good block at the second level, really finished. His DP kind of extended, and then Hairston fronted up Derwin James and made a good block, so good technique and kind of carried a little space and a little crease, and then DP was able to break out, at least tackle there a little bit. So Troy's a good kid. He works his ass off. Very diligent. He's embraced sort of the opportunity to do something a little bit different, and he's made incremental improvements from the beginning of training camp to where we are now. So really as a team, you're just looking for improvement. You're looking for improvement individually. You're looking for improvement collectively. So let's say some players have taken advantage of that and moving in the right direction. Others can certainly, there's room there in front of them. But that specific play, I think there was a lot of people that did their job, and it was a well-executed play that ended up in a good result.
I like what you said. He fronted him up. That was good. That's a very nice way of saying I'm going to use that from now on. He fronted him up because that's exactly what he did.
He played with good body position.
No,
I know
exactly what you meant.
Kind of squared him up a little bit, and then the back was able to cut off the block.
I think Derwin wanted to take him on, and Troy was like, no. Derwin can do a lot of things, but that was not one of them.
Player.
I think when you drafted Damian, he only had 100 carries as a senior his last year at Florida, and he took every carry the other day. Do you have any worry about, it's a 17-game season. He didn't have a lot of tread off the tire, which is good news, but do you know how much he can handle during a 17-game season? Any kind of worry about Damian because he didn't have a lot of you don't know how he responds to having that many carries in a season or that many carries in a game because he wasn't used as much at Florida?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I think what you have to do with any player is really take the information in totality, evaluate the player, look at their skill set, look at their strengths, look at their weaknesses, what areas can they improve. And for whatever the reasons, if a player doesn't play as maybe much as you think he should or did, what are the circumstances behind it? So part of their training is a part of that as well. So how do they train? Their overall, I would say specifically, most players, we play a sports, a ground-based sports, so the lower body strength, continue to develop your lower body strength. And then your recovery after games, that's a big part of it. So for however much you play or don't play, some players feel it a little bit more than others. So what do you do that next day to enable yourself to recover quickly so you have an opportunity the next week? So there's a lot that goes into it, John. Yeah. I wouldn't say it's one particular thing.
Sure.
But you just have to take the information in totality and then kind of take it 1 week at a time. And then we have enough information to assess where players are physically so we can kind of monitor their progress to make sure they're performing at an optimum level.
Do you know he had that kind of juice? Because it looked like Adderley had an angle on him. I thought, okay, Adderley's going to get him. And he just ran away from him. Did you think he had that kind of juice?
Yeah, I think it's just another interesting thought. Everybody looks at time speed, and then you kind of have to look at game speed, like how fast a player plays. So whether it's a player's perceived speed, he plays fast, or maybe plays faster than his time speed. So in the end, we're playing football. So it's about you very rarely, I shouldn't say that, very rarely running a straight line. So your ability to move laterally, change direction, and then make a quick, explosive movement in a short area, that's what football is about. So whether it's on the offensive line or defensive line, it's kind of short area bursts. And then their long speed is their long speed. So, he has, I would say, good speed, good acceleration, and it's just the ability to accelerate the body as quickly as you can and then kind of get moving through a short area. And then really it was a great effort by Brandon. Cooks kind of walled off JC there at the end. I think Brandon ran, his top speed for the game on that particular play, but it's a great effort when you have, you're one of your best players who in a receiver role is working all the way down the field to finish a block or at least kind of wall him off so we can get the ball in the end zone.
Nick, Damian is very shy and introverted. No, he's not. He's the opposite of that, but related
he and
to
I have a lot in common.
We can work on that.
Related to the personality, he was very quick to give credit to everybody else for that run, for his performance that day. And that aspect of things for a player when you're evaluating them, how important is that versus you want them to be the alpha and take control, but also be a great teammate? How do you weigh all that when you're evaluating players?
Yeah, it's a great perspective. I'd say everybody has their own unique personality. So I'd say it's really emblematic of the entire rookie class and some of the younger players we have in the building. Because in the end, we play a team sport. This isn't tennis. This is not golf. It's not an individual sport. So you rely on other people around you. So regardless of what you do individually, it's only a byproduct of those that are around you. And the reason that in that particular instance he was able to score was because there were a number of other players that did their job to give him the opportunity to execute his job. So like we talked about with Troy, to OJ, to Nico, to Brandon. So you should give credit to other players because nothing that you do on a field you accomplish by yourself. So our job is to evaluate the player, their personality, and once they come in the building, what do they bring to the table? And you can still be your own person. Like you can still exude emotion. You can still have joy. You can kind of have a personality, but you have to look at it within the context of the team because ultimately we're relying on each other, and it's really not about yourself. If you make it about yourself, quite frankly, you're probably playing a wrong sport or you're the wrong person for us, and that's part of our job to make sure we find the right people with the right mindset, the right mentality, and embrace that mindset because that's how we're going to be able to hopefully build something that we can sustain for a period of time.
First half, gave it 27. First 3 or 4 drives in the second half, gave up nothing, allowed you to get back in the game. Had a very Tennessee Week 18 from last year sort of feel where they got up 21, you went out in the second half. I don't want to say dominated in the second half, but really got yourself in a position. But then Tannehill made that one play. Then Herbert and Eckler make that one play on 4th and 1. It kind of changed it. But more importantly, Nick, what was it that changed from the first half to the second half where defense was giving up points, not as successful, but in the second half, they really kind of put the clamps on them, didn't get up any points?
Yeah, we're able to get some stops and early downs on first down, kind of create some second and long, second and long leads to third and long. So third and long is usually a better situation. So able to create some stops early in the down, and then the short field with the the forced fumble by MJ on kickoff coverage. I mean, our kickoff coverage unit has probably played as good as any unit in the league. I want to say we're in the top 3 or 4 in terms of the opposing team where they're starting position. So we had a lot of guys flying around. MJ, JRM probably played one of his best games. So it was a combination of things. We were able to get some stops in early downs, created a turnover, created a short field to get some points. So it's really about what we do collectively as a team. So in order to play complementary football, in order to play good football, all 3 phases have to do something to contribute. Say we did a better job in the second half than we did in the first half, so now we got to figure out just at the start of games how we can get that all 3 units kind of performing at a high enough level so we won't fall behind 14-0 in the first quarter, then 21-0 in the second quarter, whatever it was.
Nick, watching the Chargers play the Jags, that was the opponent right before the Texans. Okay, you get a look at the Jags against the Chargers, dominating victory, and then against Philadelphia, not so much. They're up 14-0. I know we'll see Philadelphia later, so you're seeing a lot of these teams on tape that you're going to see down the line. But the question is about the Jaguars. What are you seeing in them heading into this Week 5 matchup?
Yeah, just before we get to the Jags, it's interesting. We have seen a lot of crossover in terms of our next opponent. So whether it's Chargers, to this week Jacksonville, to Vegas, to Tennessee, to Philadelphia. So our next 4 or 5, we're kind of seeing them play each other, which it doesn't always match up that way. I think that's just the way the schedule worked out. So specific to Jacksonville, I would say they're a good football team. They're definitely much improved. They made a lot of investments on both sides of the ball, both in free agency and in the draft. We'll talk about some of the guys specifically in the draft. And the quarterbacks, I would say, playing well. He's playing a lot better than he did last season. So, they turned the ball over. In the end, the difference in that game was the turnover. So they were able to force 4 fumbles in short fields. They throw they went up early 7-0, pick 6 for a touchdown. Cisco returns the ball for a touchdown. Then they go up 14-0. And then Philly was able to kind of get back in the game in the second half. So I'd say the turnovers kind of flipped it there a little bit. But definitely a much improved team. A lot of explosive players on both sides of the ball. They're a big athletic team, a good combination of youth and experience. Coach Peterson's done a good job. Coach Peterson's a good coach. I mean, he won a Super Bowl when he was a head coach with the Eagles. We saw that firsthand. Put together a good staff, experienced staff. So it's going to be a big challenge. They're definitely a much improved team relative to where they were last season.
Well, you put out the bat signal when you said the word draft, so I figured that was kind of a signal
cue.
to me. Yeah, that's my cue. Because I think we've seen it here with Jalen and with Derek and the impact that 2 rookies can have on a defense. But they add Trevon Walker and they add Lloyd at linebacker. Yep. How have those two? I mean, you talk to people around the league, and they're like, man, at front seven. Well, those 2 guys are a big part of their front seven. What have you seen from those 2 in particular, and how have they made that front seven that much more difficult to face?
Yeah, they both have made a big impact. I mean, going into the Philadelphia game, Devin was their leading tackler, and he's been on the field all 3 downs. I think he played 100% of the time. So, and then Trayvon, it's interesting. So he played defensive end, really played more with his hand down. So he was anywhere from, call it 5 or 6 technique to 3 technique. Now he's playing outside linebacker in a 3-4, so he's kind of playing from a 2-point stance. So the thing that stands out about him is just his length and his power combined with his overall athleticism.
Yeah.
Like, there's not too many guys at 6'5", 265 and run 4.6 that can rush the passer and that can kind of play in space as well. Not to be undone on the other side, I would say Josh Allen probably has just started as well and played as well as he has at any point in his career. So he's been very disruptive, very explosive off the edge. Finishes a lot of rushes, plays with outstanding effort, has good skills combined with high effort, which we'll see that from Crosby in a couple weeks as well with the Raiders. But so on the edge, they have a good combination of length and overall athleticism. And then inside, they signed Fatukasi in free agency, who's a big, strong guy. Hamilton, who was there last year, big, strong guy inside. Robertson Harris has actually played really well for them inside. So big, long, athletic front. And then at the second level, we talked about Devin a little bit, and then Olakan, who they signed from Atlanta. I want to say he had almost 200 tackles last year. So an instinctive linebacker, runs well. In the secondary, Cisco's kind of, I'd say, made the transition from year 1 to year 2. Jenkins has kind of been a mainstay there. I'd say Tyson Campbell has definitely improved relative to last season on the big, long corner that's athletic, who they took in the second round last year. Griffin, they signed Darius Williams in free agency to play kind of their slot corner. So on that side of the ball, they've made a lot of investments at all 3 levels of the defense. And going into the Philly game, they were leading the league in run defense. So Philly's a running team. They were able to get some yards. So, I mean, it's definitely a big challenge on the defensive side of the ball in terms of what they do, both schematically and from a personnel standpoint.
Nick, we talked about evaluating the personality of your players before you acquire them and everything, and here you are in a situation where you're still looking for that first win, and the importance of everybody sticking together despite the adversity record-wise that you're facing so far. What do you think?
Nothing's going to happen overnight. It's going to take just one day at a time of diligent, purposeful work, and in the end, it's going to be about execution. So we all have to do a better job. We all have to do our jobs better. We'll have to find ways to kind of execute better when we're given the opportunity. So there's no magic solution. There's no magic pill that we can take. It's about going out there. It's about putting in the work. It's about understanding the opponents. It's about understanding the team. It's about understanding the player you're going to be going against across from you, winning that one-on-one matchups. If all 11 can win their one-on-one matchups, then it's going to be in our advantage collectively as a unit. And then if we have that the advantage as a unit, then hopefully we'll have the advantage of a team. So there's nothing magical that's going to take place. So we got to show up each week like we have however many games left in our schedule. This is our opportunity this week, so we got to put as much into it as we possibly can and go out there and try to have a good performance on Sunday.
Nick, what have you seen with the addition of Doug Peterson with Trevor Lawrence? What have you seen in Trevor that Doug is maybe bringing out of him that he wasn't maybe as a rookie able to do?
Yeah, I mean, Doug, Press, Taylor, kind of that group on the offensive side of the ball. Doug played the position, so I think he understands some of the things that go into that. What they've done is they've done a good job of finding opportunities for Trevor. They get rid of the ball quickly. So the ball's out of his hand quickly. They kind of change the launch point a little bit. He's made good decisions. And they have good playmakers on a perimeter. So signed Kirk in free agency, that was a big commitment. Signed Zay Jones, who made a commitment to him. They've had the running back group is back. So Robinson, who's a really good football player, nobody talks about. And then the inclusion of ETN. So when ETN's on the field, he's definitely a factor because of his speed and his overall explosiveness. So and a good offensive line. So I would say Doug's done a good job of sort of managing the offense. Maybe it's taking some of the concepts that they use in Philly and incorporating into what they do down there in Jacksonville, and then it kind of plays to Trevor's strengths there a little bit. So his interception rate, TD interception ratio was down. So he's making good decisions. I mean, the fumbles are the fumbles. And he's been fairly accurate with the ball. So you can see it in how they've played and what they've done offensively, and the results kind of bear that out.
All right, Nick, I'm going to run through some questions we run through with the players when we're done with the football stuff on the players show. Like, what's your pregame hype music?
I don't have any hype music. So
Okay.
I actually try to go to church or do something on Sunday religious.
And what are you binge watching right now? See, that's also irrelevant. Film.
I think my daughters are the ones that man the Netflix account. So I'll stick to CNBC. That's what I try to take.
That's nice.
Stay on
Squawk
topic there.
box.
Yeah,
binge
exactly.
watch.
What?
Maybe
What are you
Shark-
doing? I'm binge watching CNBC
Bad
right
and
now.
podcasts. That's about it.
Are you a Shark Tank fan, though, in the offseason?
Period.
maybe?
My middle daughter actually really enjoys Shark
Yeah.
Tank.
Okay.
So over the summer, she said, "Daddy, can we watch Shark Tank?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure.
It's
we can
good.
watch Shark Tank."
You always learn something.
You always do. Always an opportunity to learn.
And we do with you. Thank you very much, Nick.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to know when we post new content.